Just checking.
We're recording, but also we want to keep it real today. So if stuff starts getting heavy or people feel uncomfortable, we can stop record at any point, because we really want to make sure that today's an open forum where people can be comfortable. But we also have a lot of colleagues who like to check out our videos after. So we'll just see how it goes. We're going to record for now, but if at any time people say, you know, be done with it, we will listen. You just let us know.
Absolutely. So welcome to Fieldwork Friday. We know some of you have started classes and some of you are getting ready still. It's so nice to have you back. Today, we can go to the next slide. We are going to start with introducing ourselves in the chat. Thank you. I see that Christina did, so that we can know your name and institution. We're going to have an update because our Canvas Commons project is live in the Commons. Woohoo! So you can get your videos if you're teaching an education class with Fieldwork. So we'll update you on that. And we'll talk about what we want this kind of structure to look like, if we'd like to continue throughout the fall or not. And our highlight today, woohoo, Mia, thank you for joining us. We have new viral, kind of group that we're all kind of spying on and then contributing to. It's been so engaging on Distance Learning Educators, a social media group that has really, exploded into this vibrant community. And Mia is one of the co-creators. She is going to highlight Distance Learning Educators for us. So hi, Mia, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised that someone messaged me and said, "Can you come speak about it?" Because it really did explode out of nowhere. The group was created just a month ago, at the beginning of July, and about a week before, I had met another teacher named Michelle in a training, and over time I had continued to see her name in different trainings that we had both attended but never met. And so we went to a training to become salary point instructors. And there were about 50 people in the training, and we just happened to get into the same breakout room together. So just a week before we created Distance Learning Educators, we met for the first time in a Zoom meeting. About a week later, we attended a Stanford Teaching Online class together. And in this class, the presenters allowed the teachers to have the chat open and to share resources. And they kept saying, wow, there are 16,000 people in this class, or there, another day there were 6,000, and people were just sharing resources and posting links. And I just felt like I needed them all, and I didn't want to miss anything. So just quickly, I made a Facebook group. At first it was called Distant Learning Teachers, and I changed it to Distance Learning Educators. And I just posted the link in the chat. And as soon as I refreshed the page, there were already 400 people in the group. And so I messaged Michelle. I said, "Hey, I made this little group. There's 400 people. I'm so excited. Do you want to come and do it with me?" And she said yes. So we didn't have a plan for it. We just said, we need these resources and we need to get them together. And so
that's familiar to anybody who's on this call right now. This has been our summer in the community college world. So
yeah.
What was really so exciting to us is to literally be watching this vibrant grassroots effort in K-12 when we're in the community college system literally doing the same thing. How many, I was within, I think, the first maybe 1,200 of people on the site. What number are you at right now?
We're at 18,500 now.
And can you share a little bit on the demographics? I was so pleased that you shared that with the analytics and stuff recently on the site. And everybody on here will be totally into that.
Right. I look at it all the time. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. There are people from Mexico. There, somebody from Hungary, somebody from Australia, just all over the world. Teachers just hearing about it or somebody inviting them, and just the need to share resources and to connect. Michelle and I have never met in person. We've only been on one Zoom call together. And we talk every day, we tweet each other, we're like BFFs, and we've never met before. So it's just the power of connection, the power of the internet. And within LAUSD, I know that people do share resources, but not to this extent. And especially since more people are desperate for resources and transitioning to this distance learning teaching, I think it was like more urgency to create a space where teachers could share resources. And people share lesson plans, worksheets, they support each other. Some people went back this week, so people were saying, how did you do? What worked for you? So it's really just a supportive community. We have some rules where we don't post, divisive articles or politics, and that has made it a smooth, just post a resource. That's all we want here. We also, and like I said, all of this came from nowhere. Maybe 3 days into the group, one of the teachers in the group suggested, hey, you guys should make a Google Drive. And we got to it. We made a Google Drive. We bought 2 terabytes or whatever it is of space. And we set up 35 folders, all subject-based. And we haven't really gotten to the point where people are really uploading, but as soon as people do start, it's going to be a great resource. And then we decided to make some breakout groups. So now there are 12 breakout subject-based breakout groups where teachers can go to subject specific groups to share resources there. So it kind of just turned into something big and, time consuming, but worth it, because I felt prepared starting this week at school because I had so many resources and so many examples to choose from.
I love even watching this week and last week as people, especially throughout California, have been returning to schools, and just seeing the dialogue that's been happening and people having questions, and especially like as a parent who's an educator, but who's also, as a person who's an educator who's also a parent. It's like there's this whole mix of what we're all experiencing right now. So just to have the opportunity to have a place to throw out questions. And I think one of the things I love is it's so responsive. Somebody posts something and it's like instantly you have many people respond.
Yes, somebody in there knows what you need, or they have a file, or they can share something, or there's resources your district never even, knew about. And I mean, seriously, before this summer, I never used my Google Drive, and my Google Drive is full right now with resources, and I've learned a lot from everyone. And, I was actually just signed on to an ELD professional development just to get some information. And the presenter from my LAUSD district knew me. She's like, oh my God, it's Mia Young. And I was just like, no, don't do that. And she said, the guru of technology. And I was like, no, I need help too. I don't know it all. I come in there for help, and I'm there to get help, So, I mean, sometimes I ask questions in the group and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to think, I'm so stupid. But I mean, it's just like, you can just ask anything and somebody will have a resource for you.
I totally understand this because we have 2 communities of practice, one in education and one in early childhood ed. And within our early childhood ed training series, I asked them to do a Google training because I'm not as up to date with all the Google things I can do. And so it felt embarrassing, but at the same time I thought, gosh, I've been in the field for so long and I don't know how to do it. And I'm still relatively tech literate. Like, it means that others need it too. And
right.
So we can show those insecurities in a safe place and then have the audience be responsive, or I shouldn't say audience, have the community be responsive. It's just really inspirational. Another thing too, I think is fascinating. I really thought at first it was going to be like high school teachers, but then of course, as a community college person, but as somebody who's also taught K-12, I wanted to be involved. So I jumped in, but as I watched, it's like everybody. Occasionally somebody will say, oh, I'm early childhood faculty. Oh, I'm teaching this. I mean, just really specific subject matter. Have you run into any bumps or any challenges that you didn't expect with the site and what you've been able to accomplish?
I think one challenge has been like trying to create a space for everyone and being everything to everyone. I mean, we created those 12 breakout groups and we thought, this is enough. And people were saying, well, what about me? Or, separate health and PE. And I'm just like, I don't have time to do all that. These are the groups we have for now, and we'll think about some more in the future. So I think, the larger group is where most people are asking questions. Some of the smaller groups haven't really taken off yet, but people do join them. But I think it's just like trying to help everyone and be what everyone needs is a challenge. But I mean, people are understanding, and they're going through the same thing everybody is. But I was also surprised that it was going to be more than high school teachers. And it was especially because of that Stanford class, which the audience was a worldwide class. That was where it kind of took off from that. Just posting that link in that first group was how it became so big, because everybody was from everywhere in that small group. Mm-hmm. So we have, I recently added a new membership question because I was curious how people heard about the group. And it was surprising. Some people heard from Twitter, Instagram, some people from their superintendents or, PDs. So it's just exciting to hear that people are talking about something I just posted a link about and, randomly, and I did not think it would go that big.
I have to tell you, when the head of LA Unified Union, when she gave the shout out, I mean, just as a fellow colleague, I was like, yes, like I was so excited and proud for you, because, to have that level of buy-in, was just fantastic. So kudos to you. And
right. That was our first
created.
That was our first media exposure. So somebody in the group told us, hey, the president mentioned you. And we're like, where is it? We need to see it. And I showed my children. My daughter is 5 and my son is 8. And my daughter looked at me and said, I'm so proud of you. It's just like so touching. So it's been fun. It's been exciting. I've learned a lot. I just feel like I've become a better teacher just in these last few months, because of the group and because of everyone in the group. So I feel a little shy to take all this credit. And my partner, Michelle, I just bounced so many ideas off of her, and she just said yes right away, not even knowing what it was. And she couldn't be here today. She is, an amazing teacher too. She was Teacher of the Year a couple years ago. She has taken on like 40 hours more a month to mentor district interns. So she just, and she's also teaching some salary point classes, which is why she couldn't come today, but she is amazing too. And we've never met in person, but we've connected through this group, creating this group together.
I love it. I'm actually going to be working with a group called JSPAC. They focus on joint special populations on a project titled Humanity and Virtual Learning. And I honestly think that we'll probably showcase what you guys have done as an example of bringing to education, and how do we digitize humanity. This is of the utmost concern, because we need to see what that looks like with children, with adults, with the elderly. It needs to be intergenerational. So I'm so thankful for you, and I'm
great.
Done. I'm thankful that you've made it free and accessible and inclusive and diverse, and that you are somebody who didn't let any sort of barrier stop. You just went forward and you made something that people needed right now. And that's what revolutionary education is about. And you are an example of somebody who is a fantastic leader. And I look forward to watching what you continue to do in our field.
Thank you so much. We also, of our 12 subgroups, about 6 of them have moderators, and they are mostly, except one, are LAUSD teachers, and they just said, how can we help? What can we do? So Michelle and I and 2 other moderators take care of the big group, and then we have some other teachers who just monitor the posts in the other group. So it's a joint effort. Michelle and I are we thought of it, we put it together, but everyone else is just jumping on. We had a volunteer say, hey, you want us to make a promotional video for you to teach people how to upload to the Google? And he has like such a smooth voice, and we're like, yeah, please do that for us. So, it's been a joint effort, and it's just the collective community resource that is basically leveraging community assets and making it available to everybody. And free is the most important. We're not trying to charge anybody or promote anything. It's just
a pandemic. So even if like the educators are still working, their spouses might not be.
Right.
It's just in tune with everything that's happening right now, and it's deeply appreciated. Does anybody who's on right now have a question for Mia? I know we have some other things we're gonna. I see some. Okay.
My chat is not open. So.
I actually have a suggestion, comment, kind of to throw out to the audience here. So being that most of us in this room are education instructors for the community college, How can we support Mia in this process? I have my students creating lesson plans constantly, and trial and error running them through our own classes. Would that be something that we could do with your Google Drive, is create video lessons and content and share that with you as college students in training for teaching?
That would be great. We'll create a folder and somebody will use it. A professional development, there's probably a professional development folder there, or, you know, there's probably a category for it. So, I mean, I'd love any contributions. And I mean, I don't really know the college system very well, and we probably need a group for college professors. But, you know, anything you can add, a teacher in a lower educational field could probably use it too, so.
Our college students are super techie, so they're always finding these creative ideas and interactive components online, and so it'd be really fun for them to be able to practice that and develop and create these ideas that would be shareable for the K-12 teachers to go, oh, I could totally do that with my first graders and things like that.
Right, right.
Beginning, you guys, when you were in training for teacher prep, when you were young, or when I was young, do you remember how much time you'd spend like creating one lesson? And then once you become a teacher, you don't have that kind of time for every single lesson. So maybe we can get some gold out of the future teachers that we work with. That's possible. So.
Yes, that would be great.
And to teach them how to collaborate and share early, let's just go get with that model, because we need to move that way as a culture, because things are too divisive. So yeah. Excellent. What other questions do we have for Mia? It's like suddenly the group is quiet. Does anybody?
All I know is that I go on every day and I look forward to seeing secondary math and literacy stuff and Bitmoji. So it's very, very inspiring for me, and I'm making a lot of last minute changes. So I just have a shout out. Thank you.
Yes, you really have to set up, if you join, you have to have your Google Drive ready, because you'll be saving every single resource that comes up. And it's just nice to have, you know, something to pull from if you're in a bind, or, you know.
It's inspiring. Thank you, Mia, for joining us today. We're going to next share, Shannon's going to share our launch that went live about a week ago of the Canvas Commons project. So we also at the community college are working on our kind of crowdsourced video resources that's now live, so that you can actually use it in your class this fall. So I'm going to put the link up, and Shannon is going to share in just a moment.
I was going to tell Mia too, one of our tricks is the majority of our students have to complete 45 hours of field work with a credentialed teacher, and they normally just go and volunteer in a classroom. And what does that look like now? And how do we continue to train teachers? You know what I mean? Because they're not student teachers yet, they're fieldwork teachers. So we've come up with some solutions, and this is a great one that we're excited to share.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, so it's up live in the comments now. This is the direct link to that course for you, and Megan just added it to the chat box for you. Now, if you don't have a Canvas account or access to the Commons, you can create a Canvas account online for free to you. So once you do that, then you go to the Commons and you can pull in those course shells. There's a wide variety of them there. Even for high school teachers, there's so much there that you can pull in with open educational resources. So there's zero textbook cost, and all of the OER resources are being developed daily and updated constantly. So that's a great resource for all of our educators. The 45 hours that we've covered right now include like a miscellaneous module on different components, MOUs, fieldwork experience opportunities, like finals for Ed 1 courses. And then the second module is broken down from kindergarten TK to 12th grade of all of the best practice virtual recorded lessons that we could get our hands on. They're all there for you. So make sure, if you haven't had a chance to get there, go ahead and go to that link, download, and then download that into your dashboard in Canvas. If anybody has any questions along the way on that, just send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat box for you all, and I can walk you through step by step. I have a tutorial that I created for my faculty. I'll send that video on over to you, and you can utilize that.
Shannon, and this is open to everybody, correct? So that if somebody wanted to share it with another colleague, even somebody who's out of state who could still use the resource, it's open, correct?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
And I licensed the entire course to be an open educational resource, and everything is appropriately attributed within the course itself. And any documentation has been licensed to share and share alike, so you can make changes and modifications.
It's very nice to have an OER guru on the group. Thank you.
Yes, thank you to Shannon, to all the volunteers. We have a lot of you who have also contributed in our Google form to say, include this resource. If it hasn't been included in this first iteration, know that we're still seeking people that would like to continue to develop the resources. For example, we have put all of the video resources in the 45-hour class for the CID course. However, we need to perhaps pull out some that we can identify as exclusively for that course, and then for the other courses, such as 10-hour and 15-hour courses, which may not need to match that CID requirement of being under the supervision of a credentialed teacher. And so those courses may have more flexibility. That's why we have a section of this first iteration that has other things, like go to a board meeting or watch a film, right? So we have tried to build that in, but the first version is out, and we are looking still for anyone that would like to help us continue. So again, you can contact Shannon, me, or Renee, and you can also use our Google form, which I'll put in the chat soon.
Thank
You that are currently teaching EDU classes, if at some point you would like one of us on the team who's credentialed to come and meet with your class, we'd be happy to do that. Most of us still have credentials. I have a teaching credential that's valid, and I have a K-12 administrative credential that's valid. And so, and we've all taught EDU. So we could all come in as a credentialed teacher and reflect on something that's happening in K-12 or anyways, if we can be a resource, let us know, because we would like to be.
So Renee, I have to share one little quick story from my first week. I am teaching my intro to ed class, and I'm going through my roster, and I see this name. It's one of my babies I taught in first grade, and now she's in college. I'm teaching her again. So it's so exciting. Being in a small rural community, that happens. That she's not the first grader that I've taught now that I've left the K-12 system. So, but we would love to get together. Like, these are stories that we'd love to share and explain to your students, and we could definitely put a panel together and do interviews. I finally got like my HR department in my district back on call with me this week after they've gotten through all their hurdles, and they're scheduling interviews for me with pods of students with their veteran teachers. So reach out, and maybe that's something that some of the veteran teachers would be willing to do in a small group setting. They're going to be recording some of their PLC meetings for me and sending them on over so my students can observe those. So there's a wide variety of opportunity that involves the credentialed teacher that doesn't have to put the student face on the screen. And that's where we're running into those hurdles right now. So keep that in mind. I don't know if you guys saw in the news this week about the private Christian school that is fully open, and Gavin Newsom has been on the news about that a couple times. I went to that high school. It's 15 minutes away from my house currently. And it's been a big uproar in the Central Valley, but I can tell you all of our private Christian schools right now are opening up fully. It's been a very interesting time to see what's going on. We'll see what happens.
Can I just share something about, I'm on the other end of using Shannon's resources. So I wanted to thank Shannon for her thoroughness, her competency, and her willingness to share. I'm just so in awe, Shannon, of your skills. So this is Fieldwork Friday, and if I had a little martini here, I got my water bottle. Thank you to you for all your hard work and for your expertise. And I have to make a confession because it is Fieldwork Friday. This is my first semester teaching a Canvas course. So it took me, it's challenging. And so what I did with all your resources, I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to do this. I uploaded it actually to my actual course. So one of my students went in and said, are we supposed to do all of this? I go, what do you mean? There's only like 6 things. And she goes, no, there's like 300. And I went in and I saw everything from Shannon's resource site was suddenly in my actual class. So I have since learned that I'm supposed to put it somewhere else, but funny, ha ha ha, I deleted it, put it somewhere else. But so I'm learning, but I was in awe of how many resources got populated. Everything's in there. Middle school, videos, I mean,
yes.
on and on and on. So
It
thank
was a great team
Shannon.
effort, Kathleen, and
What?
it was a great team effort with the TPP team. But call me if you need some help on Canvas. Let me know.
Yeah, there's actually a way that you can, and I haven't done it yet, but I'm investigating how, that you can just take pieces of it and put it in, and then you can delete it. So you weed out the first section, because that's just for the teacher resources in the back of your, file cabinet kind of.
Right.
But what you want to put into your live class, you can delete and weed out and or only take a portion of it and put it into your Canvas class.
Well, I did the whole thing. And
yes,
my friend who's taught in Canvas a lot said, that's okay, just go in and delete it right away.
Yeah.
Your student's not going to be on that second,
Yeah.
I didn't know. So
yes, that's the good news, that we can make live changes and copy it and move it out into something different.
Yeah, but
just
oh
for
my
everyone
God,
to
the
know if you
show is
haven't done it yet.
amazing. There's so much in there. You'd have resources for years. So
Yes,
thank you, Shannon.
will.
I was just going to say thank you so much as well. And you can also publish and unpublish things on Canvas. So you can keep it there, but not publish it for all your students to see. Another thing coming up that I've been following along is Canvas tutorials. I've been on Canvas for a little while, but that's something I've been following on social media, that I'm so grateful that now all of these maybe K-12 teachers have taken on Canvas. I've been following and watching these tutorials that are maybe geared to K-12 teachers, that I'm like, oh, I've been using Canvas, but this is such a great tool, all of these little quick videos. So Kathleen, that might be helpful if you haven't followed those. They're really accessible. So that's another thing that I'm grateful for, the advent of that, with K-12 teachers kind of coming in and using Canvas as a learning management system. So I'm taking those great ideas too. So
I need Canvas for like first graders.
I feel like these Canvas tutorial videos I'm like, okay, this is how you get, making it nice and fancy and adding things. So maybe it'll help you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we had a team behind the scenes assigned to each grade level section or the general section. So we're not done with that. So if anyone's interested or has resources, I'll dig up the Google form and you can continue to add things that we can consider to put into the next iteration. And everyone will be emailed when it is updated, so that you can have the latest versions. Wherever you store it, you can then have access or swap it out with what's already in from the first version, however it works best for you. So this is a good time in our conversation to open it up to our general forum. We'll have some announcements and save the dates at the close, but how's it going?
I love that you said general forum. It sounded so like official.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I just shared my confession. So
yes.
Keep going.
Yes, keep them coming. It's time.
Coming.
It's time. Just jump in. You don't have to raise your hand.
Kathleen, it's Doug Huey here. I'm in the same boat as you. I just found out about this whole group like last night, and here I am. Shannon and Renee have been helping me really, but I did the same thing you did. I just loaded everything. So I want you to know you're not alone out there. I'm right behind you. So we'll work it out.
I wonder how you guys deal with students who are reluctant to turn on their cameras. Because in K-12, I just met my students Thursday and Friday, and I probably have 200 students. Maybe I had under 10 turn on their cameras. So it's been hard to encourage that. But I think as they get comfortable, they might, but
that's fascinating, because I have twins that are in 9th grade and just started high school, and they are required to keep their cameras on at all times.
wow.
I was told that's not legal.
Yeah.
Our district's going to do that.
You don't want me as the parent in your district, because I know ed code and I challenge things all the time.
Can anyone share that kind of nugget of information in the chat? Shannon, do you know what part of ed code, or
I'll have to find it. I heard.
Okay, I'm curious.
I'll look.
My son doesn't have a webcam yet, so I guess
maybe
Yeah.
1575, I think.
I'll have to look at, yeah, probably.
It's also an issue of equity and
exactly.
access,
Right.
and so I mean, I would love for all my students to be online, because I crave that interaction, but that's about I know for me that's about me. I'm a fully online student myself, and I totally know how you can do like 17 other things while the teacher is talking. But I really have I have a sensitivity for my students, and actually my own daughter started teaching second grade last week, and she was saying that the kids had their cameras on, and every family, there were multiple children running around in the background, there's animals. And so I think you're right, Mia, that probably as they become more comfortable and more trusting and the relationships are built and the community is built, they'll be more likely to turn them on. But I know at least in the community college realm, we have a lot of students who might not want us to see where they're living, or who have family members in the background and that kind of thing. And so, I mean, we have, and probably you do too, have families who may not be housed in a secure way either. So this whole thing, this whole learning space is such a paradigm shift that we've had to really, you know, and that's why I'm really glad you have that group where people are having these conversations between teachers so that our children, our students aren't suffering the result of us trying to put old values on, or, you know, in-person values onto what the online classroom space is, because it's so different and it's fraught with microaggressions and a lot of issues that are in our regular classrooms, but are just amplified in this space. So
I also think there's confusion because we're, especially in K-12, we're dealing with children. And so like things aren't as tangible. We don't always fully remember that brain development and how long it takes to hit certain milestones. So I know of a child who is in 4th grade, and this week he was asked by his teacher to share his animal. So he comes in, brings his cat, shares his cat to the class as an icebreaker. The class ends up going to recess. He's allowed to hang out with the animal during recess. He comes back from recess and then he's still holding his animal, and then he gets reprimanded for having the animal on his lap and having it distract his learning. So I think, and I know we're in uncharted territory, and the last thing I ever want to do is like insinuate anything negative towards teachers, because I've taught, and I know I can't even imagine being in the trenches right now. I have to be honest. And so nothing negative against the teacher, but it's like, it's so unfortunate that we didn't have enough time to get into systems before we jumped into the school year. I wish legislation would have come in and paid teachers to do training this summer, or at least offered paid training. I think I feel like everybody's like up and running, and they're going to be simultaneously training and learning as they're running. And it's hard to keep that momentum going. So that's, I'm worried about burnout. I'm worried about retention. I'm worried, gotta be honest.
You know, I got an idea from Mia's group that I haven't started my classes yet, but on distance learning educators, I saw that someone shared, they get their students to say hello to each other at the beginning of class and have a little conversation, signing on early or giving the first couple minutes for that kind of connection. And then at the end, inviting the students to turn on their camera to say goodbye or to ask questions. So I thought, ooh, I want to start my college class that way, where my students can kind of warm up, and then we can talk about ideas about sharing virtual backgrounds if they don't know about that, in case it's accessible, and just putting a picture instead of their active camera, if that's preferable, teaching them about Bitmojis, which is the latest trend, right? So I got that idea, and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to start with that.
Did you see on the site today, they literally, like somebody took a Bitmoji and made it like a video, and then so it's like her like, hey kids, what's happening, or whatever, and like on every page it's like the teachers greeting the kids. It was very cool. I think it was with Bitmoji. I don't remember. Like, did you guys see that? They did it, maybe I'm saying it wrong, maybe it was a GIF or GIF or whatever. Oh gosh.
Yeah, there's a way you can stick a GIF in a Bitmoji classroom. I mean, it's just amazing what you can do. That's probably what you said. So it is definitely a shift. And I mean, I'm learning, and I think LAUSD is pretty progressive in their thinking. So they, I mean, through conversations online and through just, you know, trying to be more understanding of the students' situations. I mean, I understand it. It's just taking me some time to get used to, you know, this new normal, I guess.
I know
Sure.
my kids was really struggling having to be on camera one of the days this week. And so if he had a teacher that would have allowed him to step back, it probably would have been better for him. It ended up in a full meltdown where he left class for part of the day. And so as hard as it is, hopefully over time, you know, you'll see a change. And if not, assume that it has nothing to do with you. And I mean, I think about when I was in K-12, I used to do home visits. I'm so old school. If I was back in K-12, I'd still be doing home visits. And I remember I had this one little girl who was really malnourished. And so I just wanted to see what was going on and make sure that they had the resources they need. And when I did a home visit, I found out there was 12 people living in a 2-bedroom home. And so there was mattresses everywhere. And, you know, I mean, like, and suddenly it was like, okay, you know what? I need to do more for this family. And so a family like that, not wanting to zoom in, or like, I get, you know, and so I get it. I know it's not the majority of our students are in that type of a boat, but it's really a tricky time. So when people are leading it and having options, I think that is probably like allowing people to breathe right now, you know?
And hello everyone, my name is Veronica Allen, and I teach community college education and child development, but I started my career in community college as a dual enrollment instructor. And for like 8 years, I was on high school campuses, and sometimes I'd have mixed ages, like 9th through 12th grade. And, you know, so I always said I didn't choose to work with like middle school, high school age students, but I ended up working with that age group just by default. And I really enjoyed it. But what I wanted to share about this is in spring, when we transitioned to teaching from home, I did a lot of asynchronous Zoom class sessions, and my students we had a really good connection in the 5 weeks we were having class, that they wanted to see each other, and most of my adult students were turning their camera on. And if they didn't, it was more of a tech issue, like their computer didn't have one or they were calling in. And one of my colleagues said that she felt so disconnected. She was so dissatisfied with the spring online, virtual teaching. And we talked about it, and she chose not to go synchronous. She did fully asynchronous, and she felt like really not fulfilled. And we talked about how I went synchronous, and I didn't mind, even if I looked exhausted or I didn't get camera ready. I thought that there must be something to it. This summer, I taught dual enrollment for high school students for LAUSD. They were all high school students. I'd never taught this class online, and I hadn't taught high school students online. So I was a little apprehensive. And at the first class session, when we go over all the business information of a class, only 2 students had their camera on, and everyone else was either a black thumbnail or something, just a name. And I remember logging off and thinking, this is what my colleague must have been talking about. There was no connection. I wasn't getting any responses. I think a couple times I might have been a little bit sarcastic, like, is anybody out there? Hello, And I just had no impression of these students. And then when I read their self-introductions, they were really self-disclosing a lot of great information about themselves. So by the second class session, I told everyone, I said, listen, I don't know you from a prior semester. And in order for me to have an image of who you are in my brain, I need to see who you are. And I encourage them to remove any cartoons or characters. And I said, if you have a camera and you feel comfortable, try to turn it on. And then I encourage everyone, if they could, put a picture. And by the next class session, 50% of them put a picture up, and 5 more turned on their camera. And they noticed I would call on their name, like, hi, Renee, hi, Megan. And I was connecting with them because I could see them. And so other students were, encouraged to do it without having to force them. And I was told I can't require LAUSD students to put their camera on. And that ended up working, and I felt so much more fulfilled as we moved through the semester. And in breakout sessions, I always encourage them, if you have your camera off, at least consider turning it on while you're with your classmates. And I think they did. So I'm sure you'll figure it out, but I can appreciate what you're saying, because that's exactly my first and second class session, how I felt. and it might be the same kind of population, high school age students, maybe middle school. But I kind of spin it as, I want to know who you are. And if your name just comes up and when you're submitting assignments, I'm not going to have an idea of who you are. And they really responded to that.
Well, and a lot of what I happened to be in a course on digital learning when we all shifted over to teaching online. And so our professor gave us the freedom to do our own case studies on what we wanted. And so I kind of did some reading on what was out there on promising practices in online pedagogy. And well, you know, big surprise, everyone, it's culturally responsive pedagogy. If we take that culturally responsive pedagogy that we're already trying to implement and explore in our classrooms, because what are you trying to do? What you're talking about, you know, is right, is building community. And it is more difficult to do online, but bringing in, they have to learn to trust you. And that's what you were able to do, is cultivate trust in those students that they could turn on their cameras. And it's, you know, in the classroom, we're right there. There aren't barriers of, you know, something came up in our department yesterday about students' names, because we have students who do not identify with the gender that their name implies. And how do we help those students be able to present themselves? If we were face to face, there would just be a conversation and I would know, you know, you'd tell me. But every time you join a class or you're in a discussion on Canvas, it's going to pop up with that name, and it's like a sucker punch every time. So there's so many subtle things that we just didn't think about because we didn't have to navigate these things before. But I think you cannot go wrong with the same practices that cultivate and empower your students in the classroom, that bring relevance to their funds of knowledge, that bring relevance to their experience. And eventually they will build trust with you and with each other. And I mean, it's not just the camera. There's so many other pieces to this that are scary for students and their families. So, I mean, we're all learning as we go here, but
some kids alone have just the camera anxiety.
Yeah.
Just seeing themselves on camera for extended periods of time, especially people who are going through puberty or who maybe are having like an extended adolescence and they're in their early 20s. And, you know, it's, people can hide from Instagram and they can hide from online personality if they want to. On Zoom, if you want to be educated, you can't. And that makes it kind of tricky. But I love the idea of having the open discussions and really, you know, how do we establish that trust? I love that Veronica was honest and said, like, you know, sometimes I just come and I am as I am and I don't have my like my meeting makeup on. Can I just tell you, before we got on, me, Megan, and Shannon were texting, and I'm like, I'm putting on my Zoom makeup because my Zoom makeup is totally different. I didn't have, the rest of the day, my hair was in a ponytail. I was in shorts and a tank top with mascara on. And then suddenly I pop in and I have like foundation and I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like this, it's almost like this Instagram kind of fake thing. And so I love that you're modeling and showing that I am going to show up, and some days I'm going to have my Zoom face on, and other days I'm just going to be Veronica and I'm going to be who I am, because I think that's great. You would want the students to see the professional side, but at the same time, seeing the human side as well is going to make them more, if we're vulnerable and model that, other people will be that as well. And so, you know, it's so funny because years ago, people said, don't get too personal with students, or, you know, and I'm not saying that we should be personal with students, but then we went into student success and we realized a best practice was actually revealing a little bit about our background and what our, you know, what we want in the future and like the human side of us. And now that we are virtual, it's a necessity. It's going to be our lifeline by making sure that we include that. So I love this discussion because this is really the direction we need to be going. And like I said earlier, like as a broader culture, I mean, I'm so grateful to be in education, but we need to shift the culture in a more inclusive, forgiving.
I made a comment on Twitter just this morning that when I was little, I'd never imagined my teacher leaving the classroom. And so now they're like looking in my bedroom right now, you know, so they can see that. And I did share with them too, like, I don't like to be on camera, you know, I want to turn my camera off too. I'm nervous. I don't, you know, it feels weird, just like you guys are feeling. So I mean, they understand. And I, you know, I just said, we need to understand each other. Even today, I'm teaching, trying to be professional on screen, and my daughter bursts into my room, jumps onto my lap, and I'm just like, get out of here. So, I mean, I think it's just the mutual understanding that we all have to, you know, form in order to get through this time.
Right, we're human.
Well, and not seeing it as a distraction and making somebody penalized, because when the guilt and when the shame is attached to something that's just naturally happening in our environment, we're trying to control it, but sometimes variables are beyond our control. I mean, I think showing that compassion is really a necessity. And so but it'll be interesting to how do we model that compassion? But then when somebody takes it too far, how do we pull it back? You know, and that's going to be probably an ongoing discussion that we're going to be having for a while, because I got to be honest, you guys, I still don't think we're going back so soon. I know a lot of other states are right now, but you know, I think California's got some time.
There's a great question in the chat about the captions. As someone who spent quite a long time yesterday fixing all the captions in the videos, because I had the bright idea of having a speaker panel in one of my classes next week. So I not only had to do all the recording, but now I'm going through all the captions. But maybe I would love to hear how folks are handling captions, because if there's an easier way, I'd love to know it.
I heard that Canvas Studio, which just became widely used, is good. I was using Loom or Screencastify to do my screencasts last spring, but then I heard that I should switch to the comments. I should switch to the Studio now that that's available. Does anyone have experience with that? I heard that it's better than just saving and going to YouTube.
I had to get trained on it this summer to train my faculty. It's 85% accurate in the transcripts, but from the instructional side, it doesn't embed their responses in the speed grader. So when you're grading assignments, you have to toggle back and forth to grade them, just a heads up. So other than that, it's been a good tool.
What does it do? Because I don't know anything about it, and we do have it, obviously, and then we're not obviously, but I was encouraged to use it. And I am old, and so these videos are it's a big learning curve for me, and I am sure there is a better way to do what I'm doing. But I'd love to get your take on what's there in Studio.
It's basically a way, right, Shannon, where you can record your screencasted lesson showing your screen, your face combination, and it's going to do the same thing that the other apps like Loom do, where they record you. But for example, I would use Loom, and then I would upload it to my personal private YouTube, and then it would translate, but then that's not accessible. So then you're supposed to go in and redo the captioning. So Shannon's confirming that yes, Canvas Studio is more accurate in the captioning, but you still have to go redo it, because I think the nut and bolt of it is that the captions have to be like matching the pacing of what you're saying. It can't just be a transcript, right? And so YouTube doesn't do punctuation correctly. It doesn't do periods, you know, so you have to clean it up to make it accessible. So maybe that's something we offer in the future. One of our questions, just to get you thinking about it as we come to the end, is that we want to know what kind of support's needed in the future. We know that we're inundated with like tons of offerings of workshops. There's so much virtual for free, especially, that you can get right now. But for this group, for our needs, we were thinking of sending you a poll saying how often do you want to meet, if at all, in the fall, about fieldwork and class and just adjusting to virtual with this group. So one thing we might want to do is see if someone in our group can do a little screencast to share or come live and talk to us about how our lessons are going, you know, to answer our questions, Rosemary, in other words, like we could capture what you need. So maybe we could start talking about, what do you need this fall? Would you want to keep meeting monthly? Do you want to just get emails randomly with, hey, we thought we could share this resource with you? What do you want? What do you need?
We don't want to force anybody to feel any specific way, but I do want to mention that within the early childhood community of practice, they determined that they would like to continue meeting, especially during COVID, at least occasionally, to make sure that people would continue to have the support needed moving forward and to know that they had a forum that they could go to. Again, we don't want to force anybody in the group to keep meeting. I see some people in the chat mentioning, okay, it looks like people would like to keep meeting. So I'm going to throw that out there. I do want to mention to the group also, we're going to invite Superintendent Tony Thurman and see if he wants to come to one of our meetings. So it's going to take me a while to get that to happen. I believe I can make that happen. So I'm going to shoot for it. So Tony was very supportive and spoke at one of our TPP events last summer in Sacramento. And so I've had a chance to work with his people and his scheduler before. And so just wanted to let everybody know, we're going to ask if he can come on and talk with us a little bit. And so I'll let you know what he says.
I see in the chat people are mentioning monthly, and Victoria, yes, I think that was your question about the videos. I can't find it now. The things included on the Canvas Commons project are accessible. So they were included because our guru, Shannon, helped us to make sure that we didn't include things that weren't. I hope we didn't miss anything, but just know that we are still going to be collecting information. Earlier in the chat, I sent the Google form. So if you have a video that you think works, or you're like, you know what, we need a category that's not there yet, then this is a kind of crowdsourced resource. So a team of volunteers are putting it together. If you want to help with that, we can make it even better. So we hope it is there and ready to get you started, but it's in no way finished. But we'll need a team effort so that we can really improve it. So keep us posted, and maybe at future meetings, if we continue monthly, we can get some training. Maybe we'll put a few ideas in the poll, but could you right now, before we end, put in the chat or give us a shout out and tell us, like, what's something you think we should do next? What's something we need?
Megan, I think you have a couple comments in there too to address.
Great.
Oh, shoot.
Hey, it's Friday. Woo-hoo. Creating content, happy to share. Angela, that would be awesome. I shared the Google form link, but if you joined late, I can try to share that again. Attention engagement for EL.
Especially learning about what a student teacher's experience is like during COVID, and making sure that even in our CSU system and our UC system and our four-year partners, making sure those students are getting the support they need also.
Awesome. Shannon, can you go to our save the date slide? Teresa, if we get cut off, we'll show our emails at the end. It's hard to juggle the chat, but I want to reopen my link and share that poll again so that you could have it and add things. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to consider meeting monthly. Maybe in our poll, we'll ask you like which day, which time slot. It's Fieldwork Fridays for this type of meeting that we're talking about. And, we'll see what other categories do you have, and we'll share that Google link to the form where you can submit things to be considered for the next update of the Canvas Commons project. But we also want you to hear the save the date we've shared at the last meeting or two. Next slide is the ACTEP webinar. So you know that recently we talked about pivoting to online fieldwork, and we developed this Canvas Commons project because we were trying to meet our need of having good videos to show for virtual fieldwork. However, There's even more information coming out because we know that this is a fluid time and things change. So ACTEP, the Association of California Community College Teacher Ed Programs that I'm secretary for, and I think Kathleen, you're still here. Kathleen's also on the board. We're putting off a free webinar that's going to have speakers from the CSU, including an associate dean, clinical practice director, and faculty teaching Cal State education classes on what they're doing, how are they pivoting. We're trying to align with our Cal State, especially for our CID Education 200 course, to be sure that the fieldwork that we provide in our videos, etc., are going to be accepted for our course to articulate. So this is a great opportunity for us to get more information. I will try to really quickly get that registration Zoom into the chat right now, but just wanted to share that with everybody.
Also, just kind of random, everyone, I am giving a parenting workshop next Wednesday on Zoom that is specifically focusing on strategies for success in distance learning. And so I put the parent workshop flyer up there because since it's via Zoom, if you have any students who are interested, or if you're working with any adults in your classes that are parents also, please feel free to share it. There's no cost to them, and it should be a good 2-hour workshop. I'm framing it in a way where we're actually embedding 30 minutes for full Q&A to hopefully make sure I meet the needs of those who attend. So if anybody would like to attend, it should be a good one.
There was a couple of comments I just saw. I was scrolling back through from Tony. Good to see you, Tony. We are going to be focusing on the ELL component and special ed students as we move forward. We want to include that as we update our Canvas course shell to include those components. We were asked to just get something out as quickly as we could because some people had started the semester. We'll continue to build and develop from there, and utilizing a lot of the strategies and tools that we found on Mia's Facebook page have been phenomenal. So we'll get to use a lot of that information too to continue to develop and build. So we'll get that back out again soon.
Well, and as we wrap, I want to just take a minute to thank Mia for what she's created. And, when somebody can do a cultural shift like that, it's like just so exciting. And I can't wait to see what continues. Please tell Michelle we send our love and we send our appreciation for just the vision and the ability to just roll with it. It's been fascinating to see. There's many different heroes during the pandemic. They don't all look the same. But you are definitely a hero in education right now, and your contributions are significant. And I hope that you fill yourself with this, like just love it, because man, you deserve it. You've done a fantastic service for all of us, and it's deeply appreciated.
Well,
and
thank you.
Continue the conversation, everybody, right?
Absolutely. So look for an email from us that's going to have a survey to see when you'd like to continue meeting time-wise, and which Friday of the month that might be. And also I'm going to plug in the chat that Google form again, so that if you have anything that you want in the next iteration, or you can help us behind the scenes, Shannon can put you into our projects so that you can help us input different videos and then do the accessibility part. So we're so happy to see you. Best wishes. If you have not yet started, like myself, I'm so excited to try stuff I learned on Mia's group and from all of you. And to those of you that finished, oh my goodness, enjoy the weekend.
Cheers. Happy weekend, everybody.
Cheers. If anyone would like to stay, we can stop recording and then we can address any questions we might have missed.